In a quiet suburban neighbourhood, a group of friends gathered at their friend Susan's house, seeking a unique form of entertainment. Amanda, who was 17 years old at the time, was a lifelong believer in the paranormal and had always been drawn to the mysteries that lay in the unexplained. Despite Susan's reluctance to delve into matters of the supernatural, Amanda and her friend Courtney were eager to see where such adventures would take them. As the day turned to evening on that fateful Friday of June the 6th, 2008, Amanda and her friends found themselves discussing the idea of using a Ouija board. Amanda, having had a previous experience with a genuine board, was excited to try again, even if it meant using a makeshift version. With a piece of notebook paper and a coin as a planchette, the stage was set for an encounter that would change all of their lives forever. Susan and her younger brother David chose not to participate, her apprehension too overbearing. Amanda and Courtney, however, were undeterred. They began by asking the standard questions, their fingers gently resting on the coin as it glided across the paper. At first, they were playfully sceptical, each believing the other was responsible for the movement. But as the session progressed, it became clear that some other power was in effect. The coin spelled up the name Sarah. A chill ran down Amanda's spine as memories of a sinister trauma from her past resurfaced. A few years earlier, when Amanda was just 13, she had experienced a string of creepy, often violent incidents in her home. It had all begun one day upon being confronted with the apparition of a little girl who, in no uncertain terms, had no eyes. Where her eyes should have been were gaping, hollow black eye sockets. She wore a dress harking back to what Amanda suspected to be the early 1900s, a suspicion later confirmed by online searches of dresses from the period. It was a white knee-length dress with a decorative collar, puffy shoulders, and slim-fitting sleeves. The girl had brown curly hair, and the first time Amanda had seen her, it had chased her down the hallway. The entity, believed to be named Sarah, had scratched, taunted, and even invaded Amanda's dreams. Susan was aware of this dark chapter in Amanda's life, but Courtney had never been told, as Amanda and Courtney had not been particularly close. As the session continued, Amanda's unease grew. They asked if the entity knew them, to which it responded yes. When they asked who had first seen the spirit, the board spelled out cousin. Amanda's mind raced back to the unsettling incident involving her 6-year-old cousin Rachel, through which Amanda had come to know its name. Amanda had discovered Rachel talking to thin air in her parents' room, alone in the dark. She had been completely unresponsive to her calling out her name when Amanda found her. Eerily, it was as if Rachel didn't even register Amanda being there. Amanda had been babysitting Rachel and was getting a little frustrated by her young cousin's continued disregard. She walked over to Rachel, stood in front of her, and asked, "Hey, are you listening to me? Who are you talking to?" Suddenly, Rachel became agitated and yelled at Amanda. "No, you killed her. You killed her." Amanda was unsurprisingly very confused and shocked by Rachel's outburst. Rachel ran around in a panicked manner, not playfully as she usually would. She then darted into Amanda's parents' bathroom, sat down with a sorrowful expression, and gently stroked the air as if she were caressing someone's face. Amanda was stunned by Rachel's behaviour, as she'd never seen her act this way before. Rachel was always a very social and sophisticated child for her age, and had never mentioned anything about having an imaginary friend. It simply wasn't in her nature. Calmly and sadly, Rachel proceeded to say, "She's dead. You killed her." Amanda, perplexed, asked who she was talking about, and it was at this time that Rachel mentioned the name Sarah. Amanda's best friend Sarah lived down the street, and Amanda had assumed that Rachel was referring to her. In an attempt to find reason in the situation, Amanda told Rachel, "No, Sarah is fine. She's at home." However, Rachel called out Amanda's misapprehension and said, "No, not her. This Sarah. She's right here. She's a different Sarah, and she's dead." At this point, Amanda realised that the situation was completely out of the ordinary and started to feel a heavy, unsettling sensation. Finally, Amanda managed to get Rachel out of the room and later told her mother what had happened. As stated previously, the first time Amanda had seen Sarah was when she was being chased down the hall, which had occurred just a few days after the incident with Rachel. At first, Amanda thought it was Rachel chasing her because they'd been playing together, running through the kitchen and into the living room, both laughing. However, when Amanda reached the beginning of the hallway, she no longer heard Rachel's giggles. Halfway down the hallway, Amanda turned to look behind her, and as she did, she saw the little girl with the hollowed-out eyes. She would soon come to infer the identity of the apparition as Sarah, the same entity witnessed by her cousin Rachel. Terrified, she ran to the end of the hallway and stood there for a moment, looking back down the hall, too frightened to walk back through it. Although Amanda could no longer perceive it visually, she could still feel its presence. Amanda ran as fast as she could back down the hall and into the living room. She took her mother aside into her room, not wanting to frighten Rachel or her own sisters. Initially, Amanda's mother didn't believe her. It wasn't until a year later that Amanda discovered her mother had seen Sarah too, after recounting further experiences with a malicious spirit. Back at Susan's house, the tension in the room was overwhelming as Amanda posed the ultimate question. "Are you friendly?" The response was a chilling no. As the Ouija board session progressed, Amanda found herself torn between fear and fascination. The revelation that the spirit communicating with them was the same entity that had haunted her in her home all those years ago, the one her cousin Rachel had encountered. It sent a chill down her spine. Yet at the same time, she couldn't help but be intrigued by the opportunity to directly communicate with the mysterious young girl. Throughout the session, Susan grew increasingly agitated and angry with Amanda. She'd made it clear from the beginning that she completely disapproved of using the Ouija board and wanted nothing to do with inviting any paranormal entities into her home. As the session continued and the risks became more apparent, especially since Susan was aware of Amanda's prior experiences with a malevolent spirit known as Sarah, her frustration with Amanda intensified. Amanda, sensing Susan's growing unease and realising the potential dangers of prolonging the session, felt more inclined to bring the communication to a close. She knew that delving further into these forces that were completely out of their depth to handle, could have serious consequences. The last thing Amanda wanted was to jeopardise her friend's well-being or the sanctity of her home. It was at this time that Amanda acquiesced to end the session. They instructed Courtney to say goodbye, hoping to close the portal that had unwittingly opened. Amanda had come across advice that emphasised the importance of properly ending a Ouija board session. According to what she had read, failing to bid farewell to the spirit by saying goodbye on the board and not receiving a reciprocal goodbye from the entity could leave the portal between the living world and the spirit realm open. This was especially concerning if contact had already been established with a particular spirit during the session, but the entity was not ready to let go. It refused to bid farewell, instead responding with a taunting "hello." The battle of wills continued for several minutes, the friends growing more desperate with each passing second. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the board spelled out goodbye. The friends, exhausted and unnerved, turned in for the night. As they lay in their beds trying to make sense of what had just happened, a sudden crash shattered the silence. A picture frame, which had been sitting on the shelf across the room, had mysteriously flown off and landed on the opposite side of the room. Amanda regarded it as an ominous warning not to meddle with forces far beyond her understanding. For Amanda, though, this brush with the paranormal was just one of many. She's always been sensitive to the presence of spirits, a fact she's kept hidden from most, fearing the judgment and ridicule of others. But in the face of such undeniable proof, Amanda felt compelled to share her story, to open a dialogue about the mysteries that lie beyond the realm of the living. But the question still remains: who was Sarah? And why did she seem to harbour such physical animosity towards Amanda, whilst acting seemingly so benign towards her cousin Rachel? Had Sarah been angered by Amanda's interruption, perhaps? And what about Sarah's apparitional representation with black, hollowed-out eye sockets? Had they been a residual manifestation of her cause of death? Amanda can only speculate, as no further encounters with the spirit known as Sarah occurred after that night.